You're listening to the Arbory Digital Experiences Podcast, where strategy meets technology. Got a topic suggestion or want to see how Arbory can boost your digital presence? Let's talk. Visit arborydigital.com or find us on LinkedIn. Now, on to today's episode.
Welcome to Arbory Digital Experiences. This is a special episode that we're doing today with me, Ted Reeves, Principal Architect at Arbory Digital, and Marta from who is the co-founder of StreamX, which is a digital experience mesh. And she's come to me from Poland, and I'm here in the United States, and we're going to talk about web performance in China.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed. And this is going to be a really interesting combo because we're going to be presenting. Let's see. I'm going to be presenting with one of your principal engineers,
Camille Harche.
Yes, in less than, gosh, what is it? Like 2 weeks away or something like that? 2.5 weeks away or something like that. I'm not nervous.
Why would you be?
Yeah. So we're going to be presenting at Adapt2 in Berlin, and we're going to be presenting solutions for web performance in China. But we wanted to give a little bit more characterization that we could get done in that presentation, which is going to be a technical presentation to a technical audience. But we wanted to give a little bit more characterization as to why it is that this is a problem to solve. What sort of a problem have we seen it be for other companies and other brands and stuff like that, and why we even got to this in the first place. So there we go.
Yeah, I remember when Todd came over to our booth, it will be a year and a half ago at the Adobe Summit.
That's right.
2024.
Right.
Yeah, and you, while discussing what's the solution and so on, you came over and, it should be a good solution for the China case. And so we all were like, what China case? What is that? So, we did dig into that later on, but I'm super curious to learn what made you interested in that from the first place.
So, okay, well, here like a little bit of story time here. So in addition to being an engineer, I had a brief attempt at an e-commerce business, and we were manufacturing things in China and bringing them into the United States and selling them on e-com platforms like Amazon. And so I had a couple trips to China as a part of that. And so I had already been an AEM engineer for some time when going into this. And so I was obviously very familiar with China's firewall. And I always assumed that this was limited to, there were just some things that you couldn't get to. And so I was just assuming that this was just going to be like things being blocked. So there'd be, I'd arrive to China and there would just be some sites that I couldn't get to, and the rest of everything would be peachy and or at least the same as any other global site. And I was entirely incorrect. All of my expectations were wrong, and it really shocked me how much of a different landscape entirely it is. It's almost as if it's two separate. Well, it's actually, you could say it is actually two separate internets that are operating, and with a kind of a loose connection between them. And but the amount of variability in performance and availability of normal sites, like I was trying controversial sites, I was trying like things that would be controversial to the Chinese government, that I was like, oh well, this one surely will be blocked, just going to Facebook or Twitter or something like that and say it's going to be blocked. But the answer to the question of is it blocked wasn't just this site is blocked. Like, when you go to a corporate firewall, like you're on a corporate VPN, and it's like this, contact your IT security. This site is blocked, because it's totally not that. It's sometimes they'll allow you through once, and then they'll progressively block it. They do rate limiting. They do progressive blocking. They do slowdowns. There's all kinds of very interesting measures that they take that isn't just an outright block. In some cases, it's an outright block, but in some cases, it's entirely different. But then for normal sites that aren't controversial, like I'm just gonna try to look and see about a new tractor, or I'm gonna browse I need a new watch to go with my suit, or something like that. sometimes these are just also blocked or experiencing ridiculously slow performance. And so that's where I got interested in this as a problem, because I went, this is not just this isn't just political. This isn't just, oh, well, because I want to share my controversial views, then therefore it's being blocked. This is a global problem that every single brand faces. So that's to me what made it an interesting problem.
Yeah, and I think that also goes back a little bit to what the Great Firewall indeed is, because when we say it, it kind of brings in that maybe it's just like one system, but in reality, it's like patchwork of technologies, of regulations, the infrastructure layers that weld together, they control and monitor the traffic, the cross-border traffic, right?
Right.
So the anatomy, which is of course unknown in its entirety, is pretty complex.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you started looking into this, though, because then we both started doing our own independent technical, like, and also like what can be done about this. And I had my own couple of I think 3 different brands that I took through different journeys on AEM, both on premise and cloud service, and how to go and assault this problem from a technical perspective. I had varying levels of success. Some of them I did better at than others. But when you were starting to look into this, what did you see brands doing about this, like both with AEM and otherwise, in terms of China?
Well, my first visits were kind of more driven by curiosity rather than proper research. And me as a kind of, I like my jewelry. I like my, fashion things. So I went there. I knew that there would be like, rich assets. I was expecting that maybe some of that will be blocked or throttled or things like that. So like there would be like, I would look at a jewelry product detail page from EU. And
Right.
it would give you, like what else is in the set, what other people viewed, what you may want to add to that. And then I'd go into China, visit the same site. Well, not the same site, but the same brand site for the same product. And it would be just image, short info, and that's it. I mean, like very, very little experience.
Super
right?
bare bones.
Yeah, like and then it got me thinking that you to get that extra stuff, you kind of have to do the request calls, and those request calls they have to go to the origin, and building that experience from all those little bits and pieces is harder when that communication is not just a simple one that we have on this non-restricted side of internet. And it's much harder when you need to build it and not knowing whether you'll get a response or not. But the other things that I also saw, like, and it's sometimes the more deeper you go, it actually gets slightly better because you have like less stuff to go through. But like I had this again fashion brand, I liked it. The site, the homepage would be like one image, like 2 paragraphs of text, and that's it on a Chinese domain. Well, right now they are actually not even working at all. I don't really know what happened in the last 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, but when you go on their website on the Western or Eastern side of the wall, you'll have everything. You'll have, those little movies. You'll have, carousels with different clothing, everything. I mean, you would think like, oh my God, I like this, I like that. And when you go into the site where you have like 1 picture, 2 paragraphs of text, I was like, I mean, is it broken? That's like the first thing you think, like, something's not right.
Right. Yeah, and the thing that so from a technical perspective, we do. I mean, there are some things that we know of why this could possibly be, because we know that a lot of the global cloud vendors simply don't operate in China at all. And so when you have anybody who's created a solution around their site, whether they're using the experience manager, they're using Shopify, they're using whatever the WordPress, or whatever the tool set that they're using to build their site. If they used any cloud services to provide things like search and relevant products or product information management or their commerce provider or whatever whatever it is that rounds out the whole experience, a lot of times that tool set that they used to develop it on the global site simply isn't available in China. And so which puts them at a crossroads of like, what do I do? Like, do I make a brand new site? Do I make a terrible site? Do I try to recreate all the same functionality? Do I what is the thing that I should do on that? And I think that makes it puts them at a difficult technical crossroads.
I agree. And I think that quite often that happens at the very end of the project, right?
Yeah.
Because like you would, like when you think from your seat, you think about it like any other market. I mean, if you have 30 or 40 markets, I mean, of course, there might be some localization. You may want to, have a different campaign. You want to have different pictures, etc. But you wouldn't think that you have to think about a separate stack, or you'd have to think about like a separate solution for that, or that things that work everywhere else will not work.
Right. Well, but I think that's the problem. I think that most folks, both product management and on the technical side, and who are brand creatives and so forth, simply don't know that there is a problem. Mm-hmm. And it's almost as if like okay, so this is one thing that I think is really interesting because I mean you and I are both have been in the business long enough to know what it was like before mobile proliferated and before everybody had a mobile. And I remember, so I was doing web development. And I was actually a website owner for a major brand at this point. And I had this epiphany. I'm like, so the iPhone just came out. I was like, the iPhone's out and it's so popular and everybody's, loving it. What even does my website look like on an iPhone? Like, I have no idea what it looks like. I don't have an iPhone. I had like a Nextel or some flip phone or something like that. And I was like, okay, what? So there was no visibility. So obviously, I pulled up on an iPhone. I'm like, oh, this is completely unusable on an iPhone. All right, so I guess but nobody has an iPhone, so I don't need to deal with this right now. We obviously have analytics, and so you could see when your mobile spread starts to increase, and you're like, maybe it's a problem I should look at. But I feel like it's a similar thing. It's almost like I feel like brands are almost like if the brand was making a site and they're like, I don't have an iPhone, so I think my site is fine. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, it's and it's fine when you operate local. Right. But if you're a global brand and you ignore 20% of your potential market, that's not necessarily a good approach, right?
Right. Or more than that.
Or more than that.
Case. Yeah.
Yeah, you did say that it's a kind of a visibility problem. So did you have I can see a problem situations that?
Well, so there's I think there's various degrees of being aware that this is a problem. Mm-hmm. So one of the things too that this hit me hard on the second time I visited China. I actually visited more of China, and this just. If you've been in Europe or if you've been in the United States, there's absolutely nothing that prepares you for the physical scale of Chinese cities. They are so big. And so in the US, and this is part of our problem of being so, isolated from the rest of the world in the US. I don't know how much of this is a problem in Europe where the culture is so much more, interwoven. But in the US, we just have this like over thereism of things like that. And we've got this idea of like China in the 1950s of like people in huts tending rice paddies or something like that. And there's a couple cities, but most people are just tending rice paddies. There's some silly, old, outdated view. And you go there and you see just the size of this. You have, I was one of these places where I had a factory, which, was dealing with a factory, was the city of Fuzhou. So Fuzhou, I could ask 1,000 people in the US, where's Fuzhou? And I guarantee you almost every single one of them doesn't know where this is. Fuzhou is a city that's larger than Berlin. It's larger than Paris. It's like on par with like Chicago in terms of how big this city is. It's like Chicago / like LA size in terms of people. It's massive. We're talking like, 4 to 6 million people in the city itself. And nobody knows. So, and that's one of tons of these cities that are all over the place.
Yep.
Never mind something like
Shanghai.
Oh yeah, or like Guangzhou, which is Guangzhou and Shenzhen. This like metropolis has more people than the entire country of France.
Yeah,
just one metro area. It is mind-boggling, and these are people. They all have smartphones. They're driving around in Lexuses and stuff. It's fine. There's a lower class, but there's lots and lots of middle class and upper class. There's so many customers that would buy people's things. I was so like I went to factories and I would see these people who were just working class kids, 20 something with their AirPods in and their smartphones. They're listening to stuff while they're making things. They're obviously, they would be customers of any global brand if the global brand had a presence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where I went, like this whole idea that when people say, China's got all these people, but they're not my customers. Like, to me, that's like a little, comforting lie that you tell yourself to say,
keep ignoring that.
That's right. But
the other thing is that if you look at the traffic on your website, you may continue to say that, right. Because,
right. And there's a lot of, so this is something that I was going to get into in detail in our presentation too, but there's reasons for that. Because we did a survey just so we and our team worked together on this survey, right? So we surveyed a bunch of people on like, what's the deal? Like, why, like, what do you think about your China presence, right? So one of our questions was like, in your project, do you know how your site performs for users in China? And the result was, after all of our responses, like 89.3% don't know. There's only 10, just over 10% that actually track their China web performance. The rest of them are either in the category of, we don't know, we've kind of spot checked it, or literally a statistically significant percentage is, we'd prefer not to know. So,
yeah. And you have to kind of want to know, because if you're checking it from your machine, right? I've been told more than once, it works on my machine. Because, when you do connect with all those endpoints that are on your side of the Great Firewall from your machine in Frankfurt or, Atlanta or wherever, it works.
Right.
Because you don't have to cross the Great Firewall.
That's right.
And your audience does. They do. They do have to cross it to access the endpoints that you're calling. So, yeah, that's one another kind of thing that blows your mind, that you need to want to know, because otherwise you won't know.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that it's so a lot of people, I think, have this idea that it's a firewall, and firewalls, if you've configured a firewall, they have a set of rules that always are followed. And so it's like, if you go and you try to visit, some whatever, let's say on your corporate firewall, Reddit's blocked. Every single time you go to Reddit, it will be blocked.
Yeah.
And you go from your laptop, you go from your boss's laptop, you go from anybody's laptop, Reddit's blocked. That's it.
Yeah.
Whereas in China, it's so much more variable. It's totally variable. It's variable based on your location. It's variable based on whether or not you're in a hotel that is frequented by Western guests. I experienced this too. Like I had 2 different hotels in Guangzhou. One of them was people who were primarily going to the Canton Fair, which is all Western people going to buy stuff in China and sell it in the West, right? So that hotel, I could get to everything. I could get to Google. I could get to YouTube. I could get to Twitter. I could get to Facebook. I could get to everything. Nothing was blocked. And then I went and that was an expensive hotel. And so I got one across the street, and it was still a nice hotel, but it was mostly Chinese visitors, and I couldn't get to anything. Like Gmail was blocked, YouTube was blocked, Facebook was blocked. And it would load like one image and then it would stop, or it would load it the first time and then it would refresh and then it would stop. It was a super variable experience. And then I tried it from a data center. I'm like, oh, I can't get to my own website. Let's see if it works. And I try Web Page Test. Web Page Test has all their servers in a data center that they kick off browser sessions to go and hit things.
Mm-hmm. And
it worked on Web Page Test, which I'm like, here's the problem. Because if I'm a site owner, I'm like, let me try Web Page Test and I'll see how my site performs in Beijing. And I test it. Look, it looks good. It looks good. Good. We don't need to fix anything, guys. I don't know why we're not getting any traffic. It's probably just because people in China aren't interested in our site. And it's
like a vicious circle, isn't it?
It is.
Well, on one hand, you're not getting traffic because you're getting blocked. You can't see that you're getting blocked because you're trying to see that with the tools that are not giving you the visibility because, well, they are not. And then you think, well, okay, maybe they are not interested.
That's right. When that's probably not so, because then the problem is even more multi-layered than that. Is that because then you get into things like, I made a Chinese language page. It should theoretically be getting picked up, but so Google's not a thing in China. So they have Baidu, and Baidu's their 800-pound gorilla search engine over there that everybody uses. You can't get a page. So in the rest of the world, you just submit a link and Google will go index it. Baidu won't index your site unless you submit a link, and you can't submit a link unless you have a Chinese phone number. You can't get a Chinese phone number unless you have a Chinese passport or unless you have a business license in China. So you're just not getting indexed because you're not there.
Yeah.
So you could say, people in China aren't interested in my site, which is totally false. It's the wrong reason altogether. It doesn't open the door to people coming to your site.
Yeah.
So for this, I think the other bit on this is that I think there's a standard that then people, I feel like it's okay. Because this is a problem. It's a multi-layered problem. But it's like in 2008, also, it was a problem to redesign your entire website for an iPhone.
Exactly.
Right?
It's
a huge expense, right?
Of course. And right now, when you think about it, like from a brand's perspective, you do need this partner that will tell you that, there are options or, there are ways to do that. And I think sometimes more often than we like to admit, we rely on this market standard being, it just doesn't really work that well over there because it's complicated and so on. And there are, pretty expensive ways of making it work. So if it's not your primary market, let's not get into all those expenses.
Right.
And I think that's, that needs to change.
I think it needs to change, but I think also there's, because I remember similar excuses, because a lot of these are excuses. A lot of these are just little white lies to tell yourself to try to avoid work. And because I remember some of these excuses, like, I even read articles of people saying, Nobody. Okay, I'm not going to change my booking website for mobile because nobody's going to book a hotel on mobile. And of course, these days, nobody could get away with a phrase like that, right?
Yeah,
Who
they'll
would
call you out on that. I mean, like, immediately.
right? Who's going to shop for and purchase new clothes on mobile? Who would do that?
Crazy people.
Right? Of course, then you ask my 16-year-old daughter, like, I'm sure she doesn't even know what the Brandy Melville website looks like on desktop. Right?
Yeah.
So, and how much is she ordered on her mobile? Like that is, as soon as she had a job and could make money, it's like, next thing I know, there's packaging arriving.
It's coming in.
So obviously that's changed. So, but in terms of that market standard, I think that there's a lot of excuses and it's pretty hard. But what do you think it would take to start getting people to change that perception about what a market standard might be?
I mean, I think if we were to, because it's not true that everybody has an awful digital experience in China.
That's true.
Because there are companies and there are brands that invest in that. There are brands that invest in local presence, that you would be able to walk into a boutique or into a supermarket and interface with the brand.
Yes.
And they do put the money there to build a separate website. But when you kind of dissect why do they do that and whether it's necessary, because they were not given any other choice, they think that that's necessary to have that very separate thing in there, because then none of the requests need to go through the great firewall. You're working in an isolated market with an isolated solution, but that gives you the reliability of that experience. So it is possible. Now, I think what's important is to see how much we can make it also affordable, affordable.
Yes. So
when it's
I think that's part of the defeatism that sometimes people have on that of there's nothing that can be done about this. I can't fix this. I can't solve it, or I can't solve it for any appreciable amount of money, like any amount of money that I'm going to be able to get approved. And I think, to me, I almost feel like there's a little bit of a multi-step, so I don't think it's true that every website needs to perform well in China.
I agree.
So, and I think you could ask yourself, okay, if I waved a magic wand and I said, good, you won the lottery. And I said, you just got 100 million this month. I just gave you 100 million well-performing user sessions to your content from people in China. Did something? So these are real people, real browsers, real folks in China, and I just gave you 100 million well-performing user sessions. Is that going to change?
Is that changing my business?
Mm-hmm.
Is that changing my life? Well, for us, not so much.
Right.
But if I were to have a brand that is, for example, selling to customers, and I had a line of, handmade jewelry that I am able to sell and ship to China, I mean, come on, give it.
Yeah. Like, for example, so let's just say your business is a tax preparer for the US. All right. If your business is a tax preparer for the US, I could give you 100 million user sessions in China, and maybe a couple of them are visitors from the US.
Yeah. On their vacation in China.
On their vacation, right? Who are like, oh, look at that, tax preparer. You're right. I did forget to do my taxes. So But it'd be very, very limited. And would you put money into that? You probably wouldn't. Like literally none of those people are really going to transact in a meaningful way with your business. But so fine. So there's that percentage that are going to listen to this talk that you and I are doing and saying, that's nice. That sounds like a problem other people have. Too bad for them. But for so many others, though, if you are.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are goods that are universal. I mean, when you're selling cars, you want to sell them both in Europe, America, and China. Why not? Why not introduce or keep well-performing businesses that are global also in that part of the globe?
Yep.
But you have to make your offer visible. You have to make it enjoyable to kind of watch and to interact with. Otherwise, well, when your experience is kind of painful or feels broken, I mean, that's not how you build loyalty. That's not how you build customers.
That's right. And I think there's also another angle, and I'm not gonna take 100% credit for this. This is so Jody from Chinafy gave me this one when I was talking these things with her. But the sometimes it's just a handful of really important visitors in China that you care about. It's not the masses. It is somebody with money. Sometimes it's an investor. Sometimes it's somebody who maybe they're not your target market, but maybe you sell industrial products, and this is something that it's a specialty product that you make, and they want to know if you're for real, because they want to potentially invest in your consultancy services and bring you over. Maybe you only do consultancy in Los Angeles and in Chicago and London, but they want to bring you over for a project. You're an architect or something like that, right? They want to know if you're for real. And if your site is broken and doesn't load, then that one really important visitor gets turned away. Like I've had this, so I've known this for a long time that a lot of sites you're viewing your web stats and you're like, oh, look at my, they're going up, and you're thinking in these aggregate masses of people, and you don't realize that sometimes it really just comes down to one person having a good user experience, and that person who was effectively communicated to, that might feed your team for months. Like I had a post like this myself where I made a thing, I put a bunch of effort into a presentation and a blog post. I put it on Reddit, and I got 5 upvotes. One of those upvotes was me. And I'm like, all right, that flopped. It didn't go anywhere. Okay, good. All right, I'll try again, Tad. Like, but one of those upvotes also was somebody who saw the presentation and engaged the company. And so it's like, sometimes those few visitors, maybe they look statistically small, but are they potentially important? And could they make a huge difference for you? So I think that's something that when people are like, oh, look, only 6% of my traffic is coming from mainland China, I'm not going to invest. Like, but okay, are any of those people important to you? And you might want to reconsider.
Yeah, and I think that that's one end of things. The other one is what I mentioned. Like there are brands that have their not digital but physical presence. They're investing huge amounts of money into those, magazine stores with lots of clothes or shoes or whatever. And you try to access their website. And for example, when you go, the only one that has Chinese is from Macau. So it's on the other side of the firewall. And the one that actually works pretty okay-ish, which would be your global one for whatever reason, it defaults to French. So you don't really even know how to change the language. I mean, so, I think like for someone to kind of get that alignment of how people purchase and how how often the journey starts with the digital journey. They don't come to the store before they have a kind of like almost intimate relationship with something that they're trying to buy, when they can look at it in their house, looking at it from different angles, getting to know what it is. And if that part is broken, you kind of have a not very good start.
That's right. That's right. And you'll never get off the ground.
No,
you'll never get off the ground. Yeah. So I guess that gets back to like, so if I was a brand and I'm like, let's just say we've effectively made the point, and they're like, okay, good. Maybe I should, I'm going to consider China. I'm not saying I'm going to actually handle it, but I'm going to consider China right now.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be steps that you would want to go about doing in terms of like how to approach this? Like, what would be your thought on that?
Well, my first idea and the diagnosis that I've made from the observations that I had is that to effectively and reliably serve your audiences in China, the stack has to be, or the site that you're building has to be entirely accessible without crossing the Great Firewall. And there are different ways to get that. That's the foundation, I'd say. How you get that is a different story. But that would be what I'd say is like a foolproof way of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is also, that does require you to obtain certain licenses like ICP, Internet Content Provider. So you do have to put a little bit more effort. But if you are seriously interested in those audiences and that market means something to you, and you do other investments over there to actually gain customers, this is something you should consider. Because, it feels like you do those 1, 2, 3, 4 things, and then you do the one that is really important one halfway through.
Yeah. So I think that step, it's funny. I think to me, like step A, even before getting technical, because I love just starting to talk networking and gear and stuff like that, because that's kind of who I am. But I almost think that the precursor for that, like I'd want somebody to just go and just go pull up some like 4K video streetscapes of like Shanghai and Guangzhou and Shenzhen and Chongqing, and like these big, like the biggest city in the entire world right now. Everybody thinks it's Tokyo. It's not. It's this city that nobody's heard of in the center of China, with like, depending on how you measure it, anywhere between 20 and 40 million people in it. And it looks like a sci-fi movie with these monorails all over the place and bridges and skyscrapers and things going, lights, everything's got LEDs and things like that. And it really looks like something out of some crazy, futuristic movie. Go look at that and just see if you can visualize any of your customers in those streetscapes. Because these are people with means who are technically savvy, who absolutely who all of them have access to the internet. All of them are on the internet. So, and if you can visualize your customer being there, like once again, if you're a US tax preparer and you're like, yeah, I watched all the videos and I couldn't spot any of my customers. Good. That made that easy. We stopped before you got too deep. But then after that, like, then I think what you said is pretty much astute. Like you gotta measure what your customers are getting right now, and it's gonna really, really shock you. It's really bad. It's worse than you think. That's the one thing too, is it is already worse than you think. But I think that the conclusion that almost every single person is going to come to is the same exact one: is that without a physical presence where your gear is physically located inside China, the performance is gonna be unacceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have done a bunch of testing on this. We test it again and again and again, and it's always going to be unacceptable.
And I think it's worth to say that I think the worst experience is that it's like the worst part of it is that it's unreliable. I mean,
Yes.
one day it's okay-ish, and the other day it's just it doesn't load at all, or and it's like, I mean, I visited it like 2 days ago, and it kind of worked, and now I can't even go through like 2 or 3 clicks.
And I think that's what makes it difficult. But also, I think that understanding that variability and understanding, like when somebody says bad, define bad, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's not that a site that usually takes 1.5 seconds to load in the US or 2 seconds to load in the US is taking 6 seconds in China. It took 6 seconds in China. They're still going to browse your site. It's a little slow, but they're still going to browse your site. What about 120 seconds to timeout with broken images and buttons that don't work because your JS didn't load, and all just like that is actually the experience that they're getting. I can tell you already, sites that I've made that I was super proud of in the US are just don't load in China. They take 2 minutes to fail. And I went and said, it's not that bad for everybody. It can't be that bad. I went through real use monitoring on it. And I had to get real use monitoring hosted in China, because if you use your New Relic and stuff, it just doesn't work at all. Because New Relic, they've got like, go Google it. Like they say, sorry, our stuff doesn't work in China. So I went and got some stuff from AliCloud and I stuck it on my site, and it's like, no, real life. And I told a bunch of friends, I'm like, good, go browse this, tell me what you get. And then I'm going to compare the stats to what you're saying. And it's like, for real life. It was like, yeah, no, your site loaded. It took 1 minute and 9 seconds.
Okay, and there's a question. Would you say, and I think I already know the answer, but would you say that people over there are just used to this kind of performance? They're okay with it?
Well, but that's the thing. So there is no shortage of local competition.
Exactly.
There is so much local competition for everything. And
it loads quickly, right?
And it loads fast. They're all hosted in China. So if you're a global brand and you're selling whatever you're selling, or you're trying to get across whatever you're trying to get across, there is almost certainly a local brand who's hosted there, whose site is going to perform. And so I would say previously you might have had a little bit of an excuse, because there was in some brands this might still be the case where they've got a real thing for foreign things.
Yeah.
So they're going to make excuses for you because you're French, or you're Swiss, or you're American, or whatever. And so therefore, I'll wait for your thing. A lot of times there's, the patriotic sort who just say, I'd rather buy from in China anyway. So you're already fighting at a disadvantage. So if you don't, I don't think that they're making any really viable excuses for you when your site is terrible.
No, I don't think either. I think they are wired, not to wait. I mean, like every other internet user, we hate waiting.
Yep.
It's just something that is not a pleasant thing. It's not acceptable in terms of user experience. And, they're just not accepting that the same as we don't. But I don't stay loyal to a brand that makes me wait. I go and search elsewhere.
Oh yeah, even if you're a captive audience. Like I've got a travel booking provider that I've been using for the last 20 years or 15 years or something like that. Their mobile performance is not good at all. And I just had an experience just now where I had to wait. I was waiting for almost 3 minutes at a hotel desk for my reservation to load so that I could show them my reservation. And do you know how many times I'm thinking, I'm going to switch from these guys? This is the last straw. right? But that's the experience that my own website gets in China presently, and they're not a captive audience.
Yeah.
So anyway, the positive end of all this, because the thing is that because we need to stop any brand owners before they commit any like self-harm as a result of this this podcast. So because I feel like this came through in some of our survey results too, is that a lot of times folks are like, there's not something practical that I can do to solve this problem. So if there was something practical that was easy that we could do to solve this problem, then we would do it. But there's not something practical. Like when you're talking about Adobe Experience Manager, we're talking about a lot of these other big vendors. There's not something to do. We've got a solution that works pretty well now.
It's neat, right?
It's very neat. It's very flexible. It's not just tied to one flavor or variant on the Adobe stack. It could be adapted effectively and cost effectively for a number of different solutions. So I think that the and not to turn this into a sales pitch, because that's not where I want to go with this, but I think the main thing that folks would need to know is that there's solutions. There are totally solutions, and it's not the direction you should go to just say, I'm pretty sure I can't do anything about this right now.
Yeah, you can actually challenge that being said to you, that, now I know that, there are ways to do it. Go get to know what it is. Well, if you really want to know, just watch Tats and Camille's presentation at the Adaptive. Well, you still have to wait to see that, because that's in 2.5 weeks. But be prepared to be amazed, because they did it, and it's working. It's something that is going to be solving this for different setups, and
this is going to be a fun new era. I really want. I've definitely got. So I had a decision that I made, whatever this was, 2018 or something like this, that I really wanted to help global brands be able to get their sites to work in China. And I feel like this is going to be one of the first times where it's possible, because right now, because here's the other thing too, is that I've run into problems in the past of things like a roadblock of, but I can't do anything about it until I have a local office in China. That's also surmountable. So there's basically solutions for almost every business configuration. If you've got a desire to do it, and you've got an audience that you want to reach, you can actually solve this problem.
Exactly. The technology has catched up.
Yeah.
And you can now expect a different standard.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I mean, this will be interesting if try to do this podcast again in a couple of years when we've turned the tide on this, and we've got a lot of global brands that are hosting there and achieving good results. Then I think that this is it'd be good to have a different set of expectations for China.
Yes. I say big yes to that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that wraps us up for right now. And I guess one of the next times that we meet and talk about this, I'll be on the same continent, and and then we'll have to. What we'll do we already have it on the books to do a wrap up after Adapt 2. And in addition to that, we're going to be doing just because I was asked, we're going to be doing a pre-Adapt 2 bike ride and video. So for anybody who can make it to Adapt 2 before the conference starts, we're going to be doing it on Sunday. So we'll do a little bike tour of Berlin and get people's pre-Adapt 2 feelings about
pump some blood through their brain so they can.
That's right.
absorb all the great stuff that will be at the stage later on in the next 3 days.
That's right.
Brilliant.
I mean, for anybody that hasn't been there, it's like it is so much more technical than Adobe Summit. So you really like have to be like ready to like receive. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of meat there.
Yep. That's right.
Very, very little fluff.
No, there's basically none. And we aim to not change that with our Prezo as well.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thanks, Marta, for coming on. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'll be seeing you in person soon.
Yes.
All right.
Can't wait.